And welcome back to BT Talks. Well, the first few minutes of this show could not have gone any more discombobulated. So I'm so happy that our first guest is with us today, because he's really gonna solidify. He always does. He's the guy who is always making sure things run smoothly. I first met Ken Zore back in 2008 when we were both working for the New York Islanders. He is now the Director of Development for the Marty Lyons Foundation, which does so many great things for so many great people. He's also the president of KZ Sports Marketing. He's a committee member of the Joe Namath Foundation. There was a time several years ago before COVID where there was not an event on Long Island that you can go to it and you wouldn't see Kenny Zore there. It's a pleasure to have him on today. Kenny, welcome to BT Talks.
Brett, how are you, buddy? Good to hear from you.
It's great to hear from you. It's my pleasure to have you on. You know, as I mentioned, we go back to the 08-09 Islanders season, which was certainly not a memorable season, other than the fact that they were bad enough to be able to draft John Tavares the next draft. But you and I seem to always run into each other at charity events, at sporting events, and I wanted to have you on today because I know it's a special anniversary for the Marty Lyons Foundation, an organization that you've been such a big part of for so many years, and I wanted my listeners to really understand all the great things the foundation does. So first of all, welcome, and give us a little sense of the foundation and how you got involved.
Sure, and thanks again for having me on. Not to get too much into the weeds as far as the history, but basically 20 years ago, before you and I met with the Islanders, I worked for the New York Jets, and I was an intern in 1999 and the 2000 season, and that's when I first met Marty. So being a kid from Long Island, I know who Marty Lyons is, but then as you work building, Marty gets to know you, and I always appreciated the fact that Marty always knew my name. He always knew where I was from. And again, I would know who he is, but for someone like him to know me as an intern, it really shined a light on me on the kind of man he is. So after I turned full-time with the Jets, I ended up loosely volunteering for the foundation the first 10 years or so. And then within the last 10 years, past our Islander time, I really became more of a volunteer. I even granted a wish years ago, and would be relied upon about getting celebrities, items for raffles, donations, things like that, real simple stuff. I was on the golf committee for a number of years, and a couple of years ago, during one of our committee meetings, Marty had pulled me aside and asked if I'd like to join the foundation full-time. I was a 1,000% believer in the mission. The mission of the foundation is to grant wishes for children who are diagnosed with either a terminal or life-threatening illness. For us, it's not really the illness that matters for the most part. It's more of the actual diagnosis. So we're kind of broad as far as the illnesses go. And that's really how everything started, from Marty, just learning how Marty was as a man 20 years ago, and now working for the foundation and working closely with him. He's as passionate as he was when I met him 20 years ago. He's as passionate with the foundation as he was 40 years ago, which you alluded to a couple minutes ago, that we are in our 40th anniversary. And, like a lot of companies, nonprofits, or even baseball teams, because you're a baseball guy, BT, the team captain or the manager or your best player is really the leader of the squad. Well, in our world, Marty, for 40 years, he literally is the heart and soul of the foundation. And he leads by example. So it's very easy, one, to get behind the mission, and number two, to follow his leadership. So it's been a great, to start, it was a great professional run. Now it's more of a personal thing because I am so intimately involved.
Yeah, and you mentioned Marty, and certainly Jet fans of a certain age, like you and myself, remember Marty playing, and he was a tremendous player. But he's really become a real part of the community, right? And when I say part of the community, that's an understatement, because he's a beloved figure for Jets fans, of a certain generation, and for the younger fans, he's known through this foundation. And I think that, of course, and I'm sure if I spoke to him, I'm sure that he'd much rather his legacy be this foundation than anything he did on the football field. But everything he did on the football field enabled him to create this foundation. So can you talk a little bit about Marty and as the man and the driving force behind the foundation?
So if you go to our website, MartyLyonsFoundation.org, under the About Us section, you'll see Marty's bio. So to your point on, if you ask Marty what his legacy would be, he's gonna turn away all of the acknowledgments for himself. He is all about the mission and the team. And in this particular case, the team happens to be the volunteers, the staff over the years, the board members, the supporters, donors, all of that. He deflects all of the acknowledgments. So when I mentioned his bio, he has an extensive bio, not just on the field. If you want to say on a 1 to 10 scale, his bio is maybe 3, 3 out of 10 is football related. The other 7 out of 10 is all of the humanitarian and philanthropic achievements that he's been able to accomplish. And it's funny enough, all of those accomplishments, humanitarian awards and things like that, there is not one thing in our office that we have up on the walls that is Marty himself. Again, he deflects all of that. He's a very humble man, where awards and recognitions, yes, they'll be accepted, but they're more so not displayed. It's just that's just the kind of guy he is. And again, when you talk about the individual, it's very easy to get behind him, because 40 years later, it's not just about being a national with the University of Alabama. It's not about being a first-round draft pick for the New York Jets, a member of the famed Sack Exchange, and the 1984 Walter Payton Man of the Year, and the College Football Hall of Fame, the Jets Ring of Honor. It's not about that. Again, that's a very small part about it. He is just a man, just like everybody else is. Jeans, T-shirt, sneakers. When it comes to our events, he dives right in and helps us make gift bags and all of that stuff. On top of the fact that when he gets a microphone in front of him and he addresses a crowd and discusses the wish children and the foundation, he nails it every single time. He's as sincere and as emotional as can be, because he's that tied into it. And it's always funny whenever we have one of our big events. Usually it's our celebrity golf outing, which is in the summer each year. But I jokingly joke with folks and I say, hey, the second Marty starts making the room cry, that's when we nail you with the live auction, because that's when he literally makes men cry all over themselves. And just thinking of it from the development side of it, that's when you really want to hopefully have an impact with what he's saying. But a privilege and an honor to know him, and luckily enough to actually call him my boss, but he's also a friend, and I can't ask for any more.
I know from speaking to you and just from knowing about the organization that it's all about the kids, and it's always been about the kids, and it always will be about the kids. Talk a little bit about how people can get involved. You mentioned there's a golf outing. There's, I think hopefully you guys are coming back with a golf outing this summer. But talk about how just people can help and what they're specifically doing as far as when they say they're helping.
Sure. So I always go back to the baseball, because you and I are baseball guys. So the stats of the baseball card for us, right? We're 40 years, we're 8,100 wishes, we're $37 million raised, and just about 92% of every dollar that we raise goes directly to the kids. So catchphrases are always key for people. I just say we're a lean, mean fundraising machine. Fundraising, what does that do? Yes, the funds come in. Any nonprofit, everyone's going to always ask you to help financially. That's just the number one thing in the nonprofit world. So if the listeners want to get involved financially, I just gave you the stats. 40 years, 8,100, $37 million, 92% efficiency. If you cannot help financially, you can also maybe help with gifts in kind. What are gifts in kind? Perhaps you own a memorabilia company, and perhaps you want to donate some memorabilia to the foundation, and then turn that into funds by auctioning them off, live auction, silent auction, things like that. Perhaps you are a bagel shop. Obviously here on Long Island, bagel shops are a dime a dozen everywhere. You can always do a promotion when you're selling your products, or maybe a portion of the proceeds. So maybe it's not coming out of your pocket, but maybe it will be coming from your customer base. Services, if you're a lawyer, as an example, perhaps you want to donate your time. Time is very key to us. Everybody only gets
deals basically with the people you cover. Yes, I'll write this for you if you tell me that.
No matter if you make $1 million or you make $10,000, everybody has 24 hours in a day. So your time is valuable. So if you want to volunteer your services, maybe review documents for us, as a simple example. As far as time, you can also be a volunteer. You mentioned our golf outing. If you want to come to our events, you can volunteer your time there and be there. So if you cannot help financially, if you can't help perhaps with gifts in kinds or services, if you can't help volunteer your time, the fourth thing that Marty is always famous for saying is just, we'll take your thoughts and prayers. That's because when you're dealing with the wish children that we deal with who are medically fragile, some have terminal diagnosis. Obviously, most of them are going to be life-threatening. We'll just take thoughts and prayers because the reality is they could use it. One of the things I was actually speaking earlier this week at a Suffolk County school facilities, and I mentioned the 8,100 number to you. So that's 8,100 wishes. And I always try to put a perspective on what that means. Yes, that's 8,100 wish children, but you have to think of a typical family of four. Usually it's going to be a mom and a dad, perhaps the wish child and another sibling. If this particular wish child has been dealing with medical issue for a few years, you can imagine the mounting medical bills that are going on. Perhaps mom's working, perhaps mom no longer works. She has to be at home with the child. Perhaps dad's working 2 or 3 jobs. And then let's just say the sibling hasn't been on a vacation in 5 years because the family can't afford it. So if we're going to send a wish child to Disney, yes, it's the child wish. But when you think about it from the bigger perspective, mom and dad get a week off. The sibling gets to go to Disney. The family component of it, they all get to enjoy what the wish child had wished for. So when you think about it from that perspective, it's not just 8,100 kids; it's tens and thousands of people that you're affecting because of the fact that one simple wish. So those are really the main ways: financially, gifts in kind, volunteer your time, and again, thoughts and prayers if nothing else out of it.
And that's great. And as you said, it's really exponential. It's one wish is far from just one wish. It's so much more. And we have just a couple more minutes. Kenny, I'm talking to Ken Zore, Director of Development for the Marty Lyons Foundation and President of KZ Sports Marketing. Kenny, every time I see you, I always, we shake hands, we hug, and we laugh. And I'm like, you're the hardest working man in show business. How do you do it all with K? First of all, how is KZ Sports Marketing? How is everything going on with you? I know you have a new addition. I see the videos. You're really between. You added dad to your resume. I don't know how you have the time.
Well, thank you. My wife says I take too many naps, but maybe that's because I am constantly doing things. But yeah, so the full-time job, yes, it's 9:01 a.m. to 5:01 p.m. I mean, and in the nonprofit world, that's not really correct. It's really longer than that. But KZ Sports Marketing has been around for 10 years. All of the relationships I've been able to accumulate and keep in good standing since my days with the Jets, my days that you and I were with the Islanders. And the years since, especially in the world of professional athletes, many people always want to get to an athlete. And athletes at times they're kind of guarded on their end because they always know somebody's trying to get something from them. And I really kind of deal in the retired athlete space because in reality, when a current player retires, their agent, their marketing people, their social media companies, they really can't make any more money, quote unquote, off of them because they're no longer active. So they're going to go after another active athlete. And those athletes, like a Marty Lyons, they all have a brand that they've built and developed during their playing career. They can now translate that brand into the workforce, in the for-profit world, and turn into a second career. And speaking of second careers, one of my best friends, and I'm honored to be a really good friend of his, and you know him well, Wesley Walker. Wesley had retired in the early 90s, retired once. He then got his master's degree and became a physical education teacher here on Long Island. So he worked there for 25 years. He retired a second time. And then after his second retirement, he went into the elder care world where he would provide companionship for some of the elderly, citizens of Long Island. And he did that for about 4 or 5 years. So now officially, I say it 3 times. He's retired 3 times. He now lives out in Arizona. But something like that, he has a name recognition. And I've been able to do a lot of things with Wesley here in the New York area because that name 30 years, 40 years later still rings a bell. Same with Marty, guys like Joe Klecko, some of the Islander guys, and you and I both were close with Clark Gillies, rest in peace. But the guys from the Islander days, and even some of the current folks, 10 years ago, Wayne Corbett retired, Curtis Martin retired, Kevin Mawai retired. those guys still have a huge brand, and it's somebody like myself where I can maybe give them some media opportunities. Maybe I can come to them with some business proposals or some appearance opportunities, and it's all about relationships. You were mentioning you and I met in 2008. That's 13 years ago. We've been friends ever since. You had a book release at the book review in Huntington, I remember, and I just came to sit in the crowd and just be there. It's all about relationships and making people feel that you're not just looking to get something from them, but you're actually there sincerely as a friend. So I'm honored to have a lot of those relationships with a lot of the athletes. They trust me, and if an opportunity comes across my desk, I have the ability to forward it to them. So it's been a lot of fun, and I've enjoyed it immensely.
Well, absolutely. And Kenny, I can't thank you enough for all the support you've had from me over the years. And I think you could tell your wife that after this interview, you've earned a nap. So, Kenny, great talking to you, and I look forward to seeing you soon. And good luck with everything with the Marty Lyons Foundation.
Thanks, BT. We'll chat soon, my man.
Absolutely. All right. That was great, Kenny Zore. We're going to take a break for No Vacancy Live, and then we'll be back on the other side with Tim Ryder.
No Vacancy with Glenn House